So if you're like me, you enjoy playing older cartridge-based games on original hardware. If you are, then you've likely run into a few game cartridges with various issues, such as Sharpie, dead batteries, dirty game cartridge contacts, or even stickers. So in this video, I'm going to show you some restoration tips so you can restore your cartridge-based games just like a pro. So the games that we're going to use in this video are not rare by any stretch, but they're all games that I'm currently missing from my Super Nintendo collection, so I want them to look nice and function properly too. First up is Zool Dimension. Zool suffers from a classic John Hancock on the cartridge, courtesy of our good buddy Mike Ivory. Thanks, Mike.
Oh yeah, man.
All right.
Come on. Looks good to me.
In addition to Mike's signature on the cartridge, it's also a bit dirty and just needs some general TLC. So first thing we're going to do is rip this thing open using our 3.5mm game bit screwdriver. If you don't happen to have one of these things, I'd highly recommend you pick one up, and I'm going to leave an Amazon link to it in the description below. It's important to note when you get new games, the first thing I like to do is open them up and inspect the game cart, PCB, and contacts prior to putting them into my console. And the reason why I like to do this is I like to keep my equipment clean and running smooth, so I never want to contaminate my system by placing a potentially dirty cartridge in there. So once you have the cart open, I like to set everything to the side and begin cleaning the inner edge of the cartridge case. This area loves to accumulate dust and grime. To do this, I just use a Q-tip and a bit of 99% isopropyl alcohol. You don't need to use 99%, the 91% stuff you can get at the pharmacy will probably do the job just fine. With that out of the way, I'm going to turn my attention to our good friend Mike Ivory's signature. So a lot of common advice that I've seen and heard over the years is to use either isopropyl alcohol or magic eraser, and I find those to be significantly inferior to what I'm about to show you right now. So to help illustrate my point, let's start with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. This is 99%. As you can see, it does bring up some of the Sharpie, but I'm working pretty hard and it does not penetrate deep into the case. So the key when doing this right is actually to use Rain-X water repellent. Now, please hear what I'm about to say. Do not, and I repeat, do not get this on the cartridge label. It will ruin it. I go so far as when I apply it to my Q-tip to spray it away from the cartridge. But hopefully you can kind of see here, it takes the Sharpie off almost instantaneously. It makes really quick work out of any kind of Sharpie left on your cartridge. Once you're done with the Rain-X, it's important to go over the area that you applied the Rain-X to with some IPA to remove any Rain-X residue from the plastic. The last thing I'm going to do with this cart is examine the contacts on the game cartridge PCB to make sure that they're clean. The ones here are not in bad shape at all, there's just a bit of oxidation and a little bit of built up grime. I was hoping I could just take it off with a bit of IPA, but alas, there's some grime left on there, so I'm going to have to use my fiberglass scratch pen. Fiberglass scratch pens are awesome for cleaning contacts on game cartridges. However, it's really good at taking off solder mask as well, so do your best to contain it to just the contacts on the game PCB. If you don't have one of these, you should really add it to your repertoire of cleaning tools as it works really great. I've added a link to it in the description below. Finally, never use Brasso to clean your games. Brasso leaves behind a conductive residue that will eventually destroy your console. Seriously, don't use it. Well, with all the hard work out of the way, it's time for a test. So I'm going to test this on my modded SNES Jr. If you happen to miss the video on this console, make sure you check it out, the card in the upper right hand corner, as the no-cut LED mod on this thing is pretty awesome. Anyway, the game works great, so it's on to the next one. And the next one up is Brunswick World Tournament of Champions. This cart's actually in really nice shape, but our good friends at Mammoth Video in Livonia, Michigan have put some labels on the back of the cart that are a complete pain to get off. So here's my process to remove these stubborn stickers. The key is heat. Now there's a number of different or similar tools that you can use to get the job done, but what I like to do is use my hot air rework station. I set the airflow to low and set the temperature to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The key is to warm up the sticker and take your time. Once you get one of the corners up on the sticker, just take your time and very slowly peel up the rest as you go. If it's too hot for your fingers, use a tweezer or another tool like a needle nose plier. I got pretty lucky with the silver sticker as it came off really nice and smooth and didn't leave behind any residue. I got a bit less lucky with the white sticker. It left behind a bunch of sticker residue. Now it's pretty easy to take care of this, but unfortunately my camera died in the middle of the process. All you need to do is add a bit of Goo Gone to a Q-tip and give the residue a once over with it. Let the Goo Gone sit for about 10 seconds, and then using a paper towel, wipe up the rest of the residue. What you should notice is the sticker residue comes right up and sticks to the paper towel. Another thing I got lucky on is the cartridge was not very dirty at all, and the contacts on the cartridge looked great too. This just needed a quick clean with some IPA and it was all set. And as the test shows here, the game works great as well. Finally, we're going to make our way over to Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball. Not sure how I was missing this one as it's incredibly common, but hey, now it's in the collection. So this one suffers from a multitude of different issues. The issues it suffers from are a broken save battery, broken rear shell, and a very dirty and corroded contacts on the game PCB. So the shell, there isn't much we're going to be able to do about this as it's both cracked and discolored. Fortunately, I keep a few spares on hand, so my plan is just to replace it. As for the rest, we can get these taken care of, no problem. First up's the battery, and removing it's pretty easy. I'm going to use some desolder wick to remove the old battery. Now one thing that I find very helpful before I attempt to wick away the old solder is actually to add new fresh solder. The solder on there is over 25 years old, so introducing some new solder along with some flux will dramatically improve our wicking results. Anyway, just take your time with this. Lay the soldering iron on top of the solder wick and on top of the pad. No need to use force. Now I'm not using the most ideal tip for this. You'd want to use a thicker chisel tip for this as the areas of this cart soak up a lot of heat. However, I'm going to make it work with what I've got on there right now. With the old battery out, we can replace it with a fresh CR2032 battery. You can also replace it with a coin cell battery holder, so the next time that the battery dies, you don't need to solder a new battery in. However, I don't seem to have any of these on hand right now, so I'm just going to go with the fresh battery route. With the new battery in, I'm going to turn my attention to the contacts on the game PCB and take the exact same approach I did with Zool, which is to start with IPA, then move over to my fiberglass scratch pen, and then follow it up with another round of IPA. Overall, considering the initial condition of these, this turned out absolutely great. And with all the work out of the way on this one, we can give it a test, and sure enough, the game's working great. Hopefully you guys found these tips and tricks helpful, and they'll allow you to restore your game cartridges just like a pro. If you enjoyed this restoration video, then you should definitely check out the video here on your screen, as I'm sure you're going to like it as well. I'll see you guys in that video.